We are going to Ekiti at the moment, where Dr. Kayode, Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State will contest in the July 14th governorship election.
Yes, indeed. An Abuja High Court sitting in Buari has certified him eligible to contest, bringing him one step closer to his desire to govern Ekiti State again. Now, presiding judge Othman Musa, during judgment, described the suit brought against him by the Action People's Party, APP, challenging his eligibility to contest as frivolous, baseless, and without merit.
That's correct. The court held that Section 182, subsection 1 of the Constitution on which the suit was based was no longer in existence, having been deleted in 2011 by the National Assembly through the first alteration of the 1999 Constitution. And as such, no Nigerian citizen can be disqualified from this section. The court also quashed Fayemi's indictment for fraud, abuse of office, and the 10 years ban from holding public office imposed on him by the Ekiti State government.
Absolutely. And then you want to wonder, so why are we discussing it if the court has ruled on it? But of course, we have Adewale Adeoye, Executive Director, Journalist for Democratic Rights. He is here in the studio. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Okay, so the court has ruled, but the gentleman who went to court, Oladimeji Olatunji, he's asked two basic questions. Let me put it this way. Number one, did Fayemi resign as minister before the primaries? And was he convicted by a competent court of embezzlement in his state when he was governor the first time around?
Well, I think...
Have those questions been answered?
Well, I think our law recognizes the right of people to go to court if they feel aggrieved to seek the rest, the rest through constitutional means. We can't take that away from the people.
Yeah.
But then there are occasions that people have abused this constitutional process by coming up with frivolous demands that cannot stand, that will collapse in the face of law. We have seen this case again and again and again and again. Because the Action People's Party, you ask yourself, if you are going to court, then you expect yourself to be the beneficiary of the outcome of that court case. But the APP is not one of the big 10 political parties in Ekiti State. It is just a footnote in the electoral contest in Ekiti State.
Yeah, but should it matter that it's not?
Yeah, that gives us the impression that there is a hidden force behind what the APP has done, that is not doing it for itself.
On its own. Okay.
And I think the court has made a very clear pronouncement on this case. That look, in the case of Amechi versus INEC, and then in the case of Atiku versus AC, that a commission of inquiry set up by, or a panel, administrative panel, the indictment is not enough to stop any Nigerian from contesting an election. And it means that we cannot substitute that kind of commission of inquiry. They cannot be a substitute for the court of law. And if you look at the case of Ekiti State, it was like you have a House of Assembly that is more or less a rubber stamp for the governor. You see the governor going to that House of Assembly dressed in military fatigue, bullying the assembly. So whatever comes out of that kind of National Assembly cannot be the true representation of the people. It's just more or less like setting up a panel to further the personal interests of the governor of Ekiti State. So we know that people often use the National Assembly to further their political interests. That's what that was happened in the case of Ekiti State. There is no court of law that has indicted Dr. Fayemi. So there is no way we will expect this kind of relief being sought by the DPP to be granted by any court.
All right, but are you aware if there is any constitutional provision that indicates that one must resign a federal appointment before going to seek the position of elective position in a state?
Well,
just as it happened, the question asked, did Fayemi resign before the primaries, before going to seek an elective position?
He did. He resigned. He resigned before going to seek, to contest for the election. And if he had, flouted any legal provision, the law court will have stated it very clearly. And in fact, when you are taking a case to court, the judge looks at two elements.
Yes.
First one is substantial compliance. Did Fayemi substantially compliance with the provision of the law? In this case, there is substantial compliance. Then the theory of circumstance. We have election coming up in about 2 weeks' time. Will it be right for anybody to go to court and then start disrupting the whole system? These were the two theories cited in, I think, 1983, when the NPN was challenged in court and then the case went up to the Supreme Court. A good judge will look at these two theories, that is there substantial compliance and then the theory of circumstance. So the election is just about 2 weeks' time. What did you really want to gain by now rushing to court and trying to destabilize the whole process?
Should we say that because of the nearness of the election, whether in the case of Ekiti or any other election for that matter, if an injustice is seen to have been done or the due process not followed, that we should, cast it aside just so that that election will not be disrupted? Recall that Oladimeji in this case actually said that, look, Fayemi got over 900 votes, of course, in that.
He got 941 votes.
900 and something votes in that primary. The second runner-up, Shegun Oni, got over 400
he got 481.
Yes, that according to him, that, Fayemi actually submitted false information to the APC and INEC over his non-resignation from public service of the federal government. And secondly, that embezzlement, conviction for an embezzlement. There was a judicial inquiry set up by the Ekiti state government, and he was found guilty. And they said he could not hold any public office in Ekiti state.
And was banned for about 10 years.
And he was banned for about 10 years. So are you saying that that judicial commission of inquiry had no legal backing or constitutional backing to come up with the decision that it had, that it came up with?
Because the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court, has said that you cannot set up an administrative panel or a commission of inquiry, and then the outcome of that commission of inquiry or panel will be used as a standard to stop any candidate from contesting an election. That one is settled. And of course, in the case of whether Dr. Fayemi resigned, the court has made this pronouncement that the case of APP has no merit. So I think it is just clear that there are so many busybodies that want to explore every avenue to score political gains. And of course, don't also forget that no matter how bad a case is, no matter how irresponsible a case is, you always get a lawyer to stand up to defend it. So I'm so happy that the High Court has made this pronouncement, and I hope they'll be wise enough not to go and appeal against that judgment, because I believe they are also going to suffer the same fate of defeat. All
right, let's look at the election proper now. Fayose, there is a sense in which politicking in Ekiti has started, and it's hitting up now. Fayose is already saying that the opposition party, the APC, are trying to manipulate things online at the moment. You think he's just crying wolf?
Well, it has always been his own game. A man who lives by cutting other people's head would not like to see anybody walking behind his house holding a cutlass. The man is desperate. He's in a very desperate mood. He knows his own games. He knows how he got into that space on the two occasions that he came in. That he came in through the back door, and it most likely will be bundled out of the window. So he's assuming that he's in the position of power. Is what he did when the federal government, bundled him into that office. So he has that kind of psychology of oppression. That look, what he has made the people to suffer is most likely to suffer the same fate.
Well,
that's his fear.
Dr. Fayemi has said that Fayose will be in jail by October of 2015.
Of course, the possibility is there. If you look at so many atrocities that have been covered up over the years, just because his party was in power for about 17 years, these cases are there, and many of them were swept under the carpet. We have cases of that I don't need to mention here, but maybe when we get to court.
He has also said that those waiting for him after he leaves office are just waiting in vain.
Yeah, we have a governor that's says so many things before thinking of the target. He's a very oratory person. He speaks with false sense of confidence. And he tries to mobilize people using cheap blackmail, using propaganda and media hype. He's an expert on this. But I can tell you that the game is up for him. He has been boxed to the corner, And that's why he's so desperate running from one pillar to the other. His big guns, his most outstanding political figures in his camp, they are all living they are all in disarray. Look at Adeyeye, that's scored almost more than half of the votes. He has led the party. The party chairman in the state, members of the state assembly, because they can see clearly that the man is at its wit's end.
So there is a sense in which we can say that all is not well with the PDP going into the elections.
Oh, sure, it's clear. And that's why it's raising all sort of flimsy excuses, funded fears, shadow boxing and all sort of, because he knows that he has deluded the people for too long. You are not paying salaries. You build a bridge, you build, market stores that engineers have gone and said this thing will collapse very soon. You live by illusion. And people at a time, you cannot begin to tell lies for so long. At a point, people will begin to fault and puncture all your claims.
Well, it doesn't
seem that the man knows that the game is up. He's so desperate, and that's why he's raising all sorts of dust all the time. So if you are so confident, then you should take your time to. It's not even campaigning. Dr. Fayemi has gone to the 132 communities. He has gone to 177 wards. Have you ever seen Fayose campaigning, going from one place to the other?
You just took it out of my mouth. But would you call what Dr. Fayemi is doing right now, would you refer to it as campaigning? Because it looks more like he has actually been going around to allay fears, number one, that his comeback or his second coming would mean punishment for a lot of people who may have betrayed him in the past, number one. He's been trying to allay such fears. And number two, he's been apologizing to people from, in different, across board, really, about the negative impact some of his policies may have had on their lives. What do you call that?
Well, I think it takes, let me take it from the last point you made. It takes a high moral ground for any leader to apologize for any, any misdeed. It takes, you need to be very high on a high moral pedestal in this part of the world. Politicians don't, they feel so arrogant, they tell you they will do it over and over and again. But of course, after, he spent 4 years in the first term, there's no way we'll have scored 100%. There may be some shortcomings. So I think he has apologized that if anybody, feel offended, and even after, during the primary, so, after winning the election, people feel offended, they have to come together and work as a team.
Does that in itself not box him into a corner? I will allow you to land on the other point. Leadership, it's been said over and over again, is not a popularity contest. Sometimes there's something called tough love. If at the present moment, at the material moment, you come up with policies that may not necessarily be popular, but in the long run, in the long term, they would benefit the society. In the area of education, for example, he cited some of the policies he came up with that may not have gone down well with some of the people, with the issue of the teachers and what have you. How will that position him if he becomes governor come July 15, for example, and moving on from the time he takes over, of course, as governor? How is it going to affect his coming up with policies that may not necessarily be popular at the time, but will be beneficial in the long run?
There was no policy that I can remember, recall, that had to do with the teachers that, were not in the interest of, that he carried out that were, against the interest of the teachers. I know there was this case of, teachers being asked to do needs assessment.
Yes.
We want to know the needs of the teachers, but politicians seize on it, and then they turn it to a propaganda weapon. And that needs assessment didn't take place. It didn't take place. It didn't carry out that exercise. No teacher was sacked. And then there was this laptop program given to, to pupils. Then I can recall that about 342 secondary schools were renovated across the state. So he had a kind of architectural plan to build the state and take it from a state of stupor, which was the kind of the first 8-year plan, which was defined in the Zone Rescue Mission program. You can ask Fayose and his team. Nobody can tell us there is a plan, an action plan, except running the state based on instinct. Even the tenders board has collapsed. People don't get contract now by bidding. How many advertisements have you seen being placed by the state asking people to come and bid for contract? It's just 1 or 2 individuals that are behind it. But you have a government that set up an architectural master plan, that was being taken, look at painstakingly. Look at the Kogosi project. In 2013, it drew 20,000 visitors to Ikogosi. Foreigners everywhere, people were coming there for holidays. There was this tourist hub that was supposed to have a cable network between Laura and all that. All these plans were destabilized. The only factory, the two factories in Ekiti State have collapsed. We have
okay, you know what, Adewale Adeoye,
industry.
We will have another opportunity to actually make this assessment. Adewale Adeoye is, of course, the executive director, journalist for Democratic Rights, also known as JODA. All right, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.